Whoa, what's good, dude? What are you doing?
I have an iBanking interview in 4 hours. I'm so stressed.
Bro, don't you know stress is really bad for you?
Whatever. Leverage buyouts. I am laser focused.
Dude, less on leverage buyouts. This is really not healthy. We gotta make a video.
I'm so reborn. I'm moving forward. Keep moving forward.
We ended part 1 with a discussion on anger, but now we'll investigate the flip side of that emotion and look at happiness. Attaining happiness is the key to a life worth living, as happiness correlates with being healthy, confident, friendly, and satisfied. All of these byproducts lead to the feel-good, do-good phenomenon, wherein demonstrably happy people are far more likely to donate to charity and assist a stranger, thus making others happy as well. Despite the clear importance of happiness, the vast majority of studies center around emotions concerning negative issues, such as anger and jealousy. The subjective well-being movement is attempting to assuage this deficit by shifting the focus towards the positive. Despite the power of emotions such as happiness and anger, these forces are short-lived in our lives. An argument with your mom at the start of the day may ruin your morning, but when you wake up tomorrow, you'll hardly remember it. The same is true for happiness. The joy drawn from a night out with friends rarely carries over to the next day. The resting rate of happiness can change as well. Those diagnosed with AIDS will initially be distraught, but will gradually find their morale shifts back to normal given enough time. So Abe, it's clear that happiness is a good thing, but tell me more about well-being in general.
Sure. 73% of Americans in 2006 said they'd be happier if they made more money. But scientifically speaking, this isn't really the case. Once you have enough money to buy your way out of hunger and into basic comfort and security, there are diminishing returns. In fact, an annual wage increase of $1,000 for a random person in Malawi will bring about a lot more happiness than the same wage increase for a random person in the United States. In general, economic growth in wealthy countries does not appear to boost morale. What it comes down to is that those who strive for wealth the most tend to be less happy, while those who strive for things like personal growth and intimacy tend to be the happiest in life. Let's dive into psychology to explain these trends. According to the adaptation level phenomenon, we tend to define a neutral level based on our prior experiences and use that level to form our judgments about anything. Say, what weather feels hot or cold, or how much income is enough.
I just came back from living in Antarctica for 5 years. I feel great out here.
Whew, really, dude? I'm freezing.
Gotta love the adaptation level phenomenon.
And the second principle we'll use to explain the income happiness trends is relative deprivation, when we tend to perceive ourselves as worse off than those to whom we compare ourselves. Basically, as we become more and more successful in life, we tend to compare ourselves to more and more successful people. We cannot escape jealousy.
Frank, guess what? I studied so hard and I got my first A on this A-push test.
Oh, good for you. I got a perfect score because I watch Abe and Frank, so I guess I don't even have to study for the final.
Stupid relative deprivation.
All of the items on this list can contribute to how happy you feel. We're talking about predictors of happiness. Now, to touch on a few, there are factors we can't control, like genes, since they influence the personality traits that mark happy lives. But there are many factors we can control, like relationship quality.
Be nice to your girlfriends.
Conscious thoughts.
Positive thoughts contribute more to happiness.
And expressive behaviors.
Smile.
Frank, all this talk about happiness is starting to stress me out.
That's okay, Abe. I'm more than happy to stress you out while talking about stress.
Oh, Jesus.
Stress is an incredibly important factor in our health and happiness. Stress can either be a stimulus for action or a response to actions against you. Because of this, stress is a general process of our encounters with adverse or unfamiliar situations. Because of this, short-term stress can be beneficial, pushing us to work harder to achieve goals and expectations or overcoming challenges. On the flip side, constant high-stress environments greatly increase risk of disease and heavily undermine our immune systems. This is demonstrated by PTSD in soldiers. Intense stress triggers the sympathetic nervous system, leading to what early psychologists called the fight or flight response. We now know that there are more options than just flight or fight. Some people, such as Abe, will freeze up given a stressful situation.
Frank, what is this? This is not what my mama looks like.
We know you're a mama's boy, Abe. Interestingly, the body responds incredibly similarly to stress on a biological level, leading scientists to label the response as the General Adaptation Syndrome, or GAS. GAS has 3 stages. First, alarm reaction. Second, resistance. And third, exhaustion. Say, for example, an earthquake devastates California. According to GAS, your initial alarm reaction will manifest in an elevated heartbeat as adrenaline pumps into your system. Then, in resistance, your body will continue to secrete stress hormones to enable you to run to cover. Finally, as your body becomes depleted of these stress hormones and depleted of energy due to continued exposure to high stress, you will face exhaustion, wherein your body runs out of energy and your immune system is greatly weakened. Moving on from our biological perspective here, Abe, what are the causes of stress?
Well, this is going to be a fairly intuitive question to answer. The first cause of stress is catastrophes. For example, after 9/11, 2/3 of Americans claimed they were struggling to concentrate and sleep. And in New York, sleeping pill prescriptions rose by 28%. Second, significant life changes, such as the death of a loved one or losing a job. Unfortunately for Frank and me, and probably for most of you viewers, life changes affect humans most during young adulthood, and half of adults age 50 or younger report frequent stress. Third, daily hassles. Rush hour traffic, a long list of things to get done, a week's worth of psych homework due tomorrow that you just started on, all of these can cause stress. Now let's talk about what makes some people more prone to heart disease. A bunch of little sources of stress can add up and take a harsh toll on our health. Hypertension, or high blood pressure, tends to be most common in impoverished areas of the world where people are stressed about inadequate income, unemployment, and other factors. And hypertension is one of the factors that increases your risk of getting coronary heart disease, which occurs when the vessels around your heart become clogged. Because stress increases your risk of getting a heart attack, it's not surprising that type A people, who are competitive and more aggressive, tend to suffer from heart attacks much more than type B people, who are more easygoing and relaxed. The most toxic part about a type A personality is negative emotion, anger in particular. When we become angry, blood flow shifts to our muscles and away from our liver, making it much more likely that cholesterol and fat will get deposited around our hearts. Besides anger, pessimism and depression are also toxic and put you at a greater risk of heart disease. Now let's look at how stress makes us more vulnerable to disease. To be clear, hypertension and headaches are types of psycho-physiological illnesses, since they are stress-related physical illnesses. Psychoneuroimmunology is the study of how psychological, neural, and endocrine processes can affect our immune system. So first, let's discuss a little about our immune system. There are 2 types of white blood cells, known as lymphocytes, that make up our immune systems. T lymphocytes, such as the one shown in the picture on the right, form in the thymus and attack viruses, cancer cells, and foreign substances, like transplanted organs. B lymphocytes form in bone marrow and fight bacterial infections by releasing antibodies. Now, unfortunately, there are 2 ways that our immune systems can step out of line. First, they can overperform and attack the body's own healthy tissue. And second, they can underperform, maybe allowing a dormant herpes virus to erupt in the form of a cold sore. Overall, stress weakens our immune systems. We can see this fact come to life in that surgical wounds heal much more slowly when we're stressed. And the one trait shared among people, among 169 people living over the age of 100, is their ability to manage stress very well. Now, Frank, I'm gunning to live to be over 100 years old. Which diseases should I look out for?
Well, given how much you stress yourself out, Abe, you definitely want to avoid AIDS.
Ugh.
AIDS kills more people in Africa than any other cause, and is the 4th leading cause of death in the world. AIDS stands for Acquired Immunodeficiency Virus, and occurs when our immune system begins to attack itself because of the virus. Because we just learned that high stress degrades the immune system, it shouldn't be surprising to learn that AIDS patients with high stress levels see faster progression of the virus than those with lower levels of stress. Fortunately, this does not appear to be true for other diseases such as cancer, which is not linked to the immune system. Current research shows no correlation between the creation of cancer cells and a life filled with stress. Overall, the weakening of our immune system is the trade-off for the beneficial effects of stress. As I mentioned earlier, stress can push us to achieve great things, but too much is certainly harmful.
Hello there, Abe. Where are you going?
Off to my interview. How do I look? Okay. After all this discussion about stress, I decided to just, totally let loose and focus on what really matters in life.
All right. I guess I respect it.
One thing. Could you just get my tie for me? It's a little out of shape.
Yeah, okay. All right. Should be good to go. Good luck, man.
Thanks.
Goldman Sachs won't know what hit him. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like, comment,
Hey,
Subscribe.
she say, do you love me? I tell her only partly. I only love my bed and my mom. I'm sorry. 50 dollars.